Right, everyone, let's move on to chapter 4. So, in chapter 4, Jagan thinks that Mali is writing a novel and he has a lot of questions about what is the language, what is the whether Mali has enough knowledge about the language to write. Is he writing in Tamil, Hindi, or English? How can he reach a big audience, etc. And anyway, with the time, Jagan understands that Mali is going away from him. So, with Jagan's limited education and cultural and religious beliefs mixed with Gandhian principles, it's very difficult to reach the sun. By now, the sun belongs to the modern generation that is in quest of new knowledge, change, and freedom. Right, so the final result is that by now Jagan is done. He's so careworn and he's sad about what's happening. So, from the cousin, Jagan gets to know that the boy is working at the library on temporary basis, and he's going to America to study about story writing, and he's already done most of the work, like the passport, clothes, the money is paid. He has actually stolen the money, but finally, Jagan is quite okay with it because Jagan, just out of being ashamed, he says that it's okay anyway, the money belongs to Mali and that's fine. But actually there are more things that shocks him because Jagan is going to be all alone at home when Mali goes abroad, and he rather wishes Mali to go by steam, or rather by ship, not by plane. So we again and again see the love and the care the father has, which Mali does not even care at all. So, however much Jagan wants to stop Mali going away, now it's too late. So he's going to be alone in this house that is quite unstoppable by now. Okay, so here in chapter 5, let's see what happens. So Jagan was very uneasy about his son going to the USA, but later on he developed a very positive idea about it because he starts telling everyone that his son is going abroad, and he later on when the son goes there, how he writes letters, and only one letter is actually hidden by Jagan without disclosing the content because Mali talks about it in beef and all that. So basically, Jagan is a person who understands or tries to rather be okay with anything and everything done by the son. And after 3 years, Mali comes with a foreign wife, quite surprisingly, and actually, we get to know that the letters were also written by the girl, Grace, not by Mali. And there's a problem again that Mali brings up because he wants to start a business that is manufacturing writing machines, but Jagan does not want to give money for a business that is not sure about. In the meantime, we get to know how Grace is trying to be Indian, how she tries to get into the Indian context, even though she's from a mixed and European context. Jagan is, as always, a caring father, but he never could show his love. He doesn't know how to do it. He was rather a timid father, but unfortunately, the younger generation, the son and the daughter in law, find it quite hard to understand that. Later on, Jagan comes to a kind of a juncture, so he avoids people, thinking that they will ask unnecessary questions about Mali and Grace, and their life is actually very problematic by now. Their lifestyle also very problematic. So Jagan comes to a situation later in which he cannot even approve their lifestyle, the way they eat, the way they talk, the way they criticize each other, and finally the way they want to even divorce, go for a divorce, etc. So it's very kind of depressing for him by now. So, like that, actually, chapter 5 ends in rather a very sad way because of this situation. So, let's see what happens in chapter 6. So, in chapter 6, we get to know more. in chapter 6, basically Mali explains his future plans to Jagan. So Jagan does not actually understand what he says, but he's rather admiring the son who has grown up. And Mali wants to sell writing machines, and he wants almost quite a lot of money in order to start the business but Jagan does not feel like giving money because he's not sure about that. He would also like to join the father for the business as a share partner, but Jagan does not have any such idea. But Jagan does not want to waste his money or spend money on something he's not sure or unaware about. So that is the main reason why he doesn't want to give money. And Mali plans to get the money from the hidden place, right? And but Jagan says that, why can't you accept my business and start running the business and earn the money and use that money for the business? But Mali actually scoffs at the idea because he thinks that being a vendor is not worthy enough for him because he's very educated and he has come from zero. So Mali does not show any gratitude to the father or to his business. That is a business which has given money for his education, for the life in the USA, for everything. So Mali is very much overconfident and he doesn't have any gratitude. He doesn't see any goodness or any good thing in the Indian context. He is just having a very Eurocentric idea. So things are getting worse day by day. Mali has a life which is almost mechanized. He's almost like a celebrity who is dressing up and going out. And Mali also expects India to change like America, but Jagan, wonders why India is so good. There are good things. There are things to develop, but there are nice things we can be happy about. So Jagan feels very sad, trapped and distanced from the family, that everyone is trying to trap him, because even when Grace tries to come and talk to him and being nice, he thinks that Grace is trying to take his money in a cunning way. So like that, chapter 6 also ends in quite a serious way, making us understand the pathetic situation of Jagan, because he has done everything for the sake of the son, but now there's no one rather that he can really trust. Everyone he thinks is just eyeing at his money. Thus, we are moving on to chapter 7. So, Jagan takes a drastic decision and he drastically lowers the prices of the sweets he sold, that he sells in his shop. This attracts a lot of customers, and it becomes a huge competition and a problem for the other businessmen. So they come and have a chat with him and they bring out the idea that we hope that Jagan, you will not continue this because there should be one proper market price. But Jagan, as a solution, says that as a reason, what he always brings out even for the employees is that there are a lot of people who can't afford to buy my Swiss, so I have reduced the prices, so at least they can try the Swiss now. On the other hand, he does not want to close down the business. He just want to, make it run so the employees are paid. Otherwise, he doesn't want money. He doesn't have hopes. He's like sort of so depressed about Mali, so he doesn't want to accumulate money for Mali. Right? And then, with the new strategy, employees get more free time and Chagar starts reading Bhagavad Gita, but people don't like it. I mean, he's a good person, but he's too much. He's like going to the extreme in his religion and tradition and everything. So that's unbearable for the people. And finally, we understand by the end of chapter 7 that Mali and his work have a great impact on the behavior and actions of Chagar. It's really depressing for him at the moment, right? So I hope that you got an idea from chapter 7 also. Don't forget the fact that this is a very quick revision on the novel. just to remember the main story line. So let's move on to the next chapter. Right, let's move on to the next chapter. So that is chapter 8. Right, so here in chapter 8, Jagan goes to see the holy place, which is abandoned at the moment, because if you all can remember, when the prices of the goods were reduced, some businessmen came to discuss about this to Jagan's place, and there came a bearded man. So Chinnadore talks about his master, his service, simple life, and also about his unfinished work at the temple site that he would like to have finished before his death. So Jagan sees these things, and then he gets to know that this man, Chinnadore, wants Jagan's help in order to resurrect the goddess Gayatri and make the temple a very busy place like earlier. So Jagan sees the platform, statues, ticket, and finally understand why he has been requested to come here. So the bearded man wants Jagan to buy this plot of land and install the statue of the goddess and gain the earlier prestige or the great place of the temple. Jagan is the only person who is capable of doing this because he has money, status, according to the bearded man. So that's why he has actually talked to Jagan. On the other hand, now the bearded man thinks that he wants help from Jagan. But actually, Jagan also gets help from the bearded man because it's a time that he needs a retreat. He's almost 60 years of age. No one celebrates his birthday. The son does not even look after him. He's done with all the material things. He doesn't want to earn money anyway. So it's a time that he needs a change. And we see a parallel here. Jagan has written another novel called The English Teacher. And here in this novel also we see how religion gets a very important place, how the wife dies, how there's a child, right, with whom the father has tough life looking after the child and all. So this shows the impact that his real life experiences had on his writing. In both books we see, because his wife actually died at a very young age and he was left with the child. So on the other hand, there is another book called The Guide. And according to that story, the money-minded guide, a tourist guide, finally resorts to religion. And it's another proof of Narayan's giving much prominence to religion in the novel. Actually, in the guide, finally this man starts meditating and he doesn't even want to breathe. He's that much powerful in his meditation. So spirituality is a common topic in Jagan's work. So you can give these parallels when you're writing your answers. So basically, by the end of the chapter, we see a depressed Jagan, but who wants to decide what to be done in life. And he will take this decision very, very quickly. Right? Let's move on to chapter 9 quickly. So in chapter 9, everyone, what happens? Can you all remember? Jagan feels that he's undergoing a drastic change in his life. It's a transition period. After meeting the bearded man, Jagan is in a transitional period, changing from one to another. Jagan is wondering what he should do. Is it a good idea to buy the plot of land and ruin Mali's future without giving him money? Mali directly confronts the father to ask money for the business. Jagan bluntly refuses to give money, Angered and frustrated, Marley says, then Grace has to be sent back home, as if Jagan brought the wife home, right? Because there's no money to sustain her or look after her, as Marley says. So you can see how demanding and how spoiled this son is. Jagan loves his daughter-in-law amidst all that's happening because it is she who fills a serious gap in the house by being a mediator, and it is she who has brought light to the house with a feminine touch around after a long period of time. So Jagan is lost between his mental distress and Marley's Eurocentric viewpoint, coupled with pride and disobedient nature. So basically, Jagan actually does not want Marley to be separated from Grace, so he tries to give a solution by letting them get married with the help of the cousin. But Marley does not like it. He rather believes that Grace has a problem. That's why she wants to get married to me. And he also refers to psychiatrists, which Jagan does not even understand. Right, so then again, the conflict arises. Marley blames, what a backward is this? And always the conversations end like that pathetically. So here we find in chapter 9, Jagan again with so many problems just because of Marley. So all these which are happening are really helpful for Jagan actually to come to a particular decision. So let's move on to the next chapter, that is chapter 10. So in chapter 10, what happens? So we see a troubled household because Grace actually confesses about Mali and Grace being not married. And Jagan is distressed because they were together, they were living together, they have made the house also dirty by their dirty behavior. They have not married according to religion or law, right? So Jagan is worried about Grace and wants to see her and meet her because she's not in the house most of the time now. He would like to know what deeply troubles her mind. The cousin helps Jagan by sending Mali away to see a land so Jagan can talk to Grace freely. Grace reveals the fact that she and Mali are unmarried. Jagan is deeply worried about the revelation regarding Grace and Mali living together without getting married. Customs, religion, law, and adults' advice are not considered at all in Mali's marriage. So Jagan thinks about his own marriage, how it happened as a proposal. So the cousin actually helps as usual. Jagan laments over the loss of the sanctity or the purity and cleanliness of the house. The house is blackened or tarnished by the presence of Mali and Grace, who have led a sinful life there without getting married. Jagan does not want to live there anymore. The cousin, as usual, helps Jagan and suggests easy suggestions to solve the issue, such as making Mali and Grace marry or finding another new bride for Mali. The cousin also suggests Jagan to separate the house into two parts so Jagan can live being away from the sinners, and that's what he does, right? So he locks his side, he covers his side and stays away from the sinners. And he understands that unlike earlier, there won't be any light in the house ever in the future, because now that happy time is gone. No one will be happy in this house. In chapter 11, what happens, everyone? Let's say. So things get more and more complicated. Jagan remembers some past incidents. Jagan remembers what his sister and brothers have told him some time back. Because of Jagan's beliefs and imprisonment, he was not regarded as a man with some status. He was regarded as an outcast because with the nonviolence movement, he was with the low caste people. He went to prison. Now there's a similar issue. There's a casteless foreign girl, and she's not even a daughter-in-law. I mean, there's a problem there also. Still, Jagana has accepted her, but he knows that he has been ostracized or like cornered, or considered as an outcast due to that. So if people get to know more, Jagan will be in more trouble. So the father or Jagan is in a very pitiful condition. Jagan and Mali finally get an opportunity to talk in the garden. Mali does not seem to approve the idea of getting married to Grace. So, according to Jagan, marrying according to religion, custom, and legality will bring sanctity to the marriage. And he also believes, as a traditional man, from the beginning to the end, in happiness as well as in sad times, the two should stay together. But the traditional man has that understanding, not Mali. Mali considered this whole thing about marriage as a funny notion. Mali says Grace is not behaving in a usual way and she should have some medicine. Jagan cannot understand the meaning of psychiatrist even. As usual, the cousin comes as a savior. So we ask the question, where is the love and harmony of the couple? Can two people just live together like this and break the relationship so soon and easily? Jagan has the same issue. Mali and Grace live so happily, but all of a sudden they want to get divorced. The conversation between the father and son clearly bring out the differences between Jagan's traditions and customs and Mali's modern ideologies. What Mali has done is taken the verse and the surface level meaning from the Europe, but not the real values. He has missed the real values that India would give him. Jagan may be believing in old ideas, but he seems to have good values and life principles which Mali does not have. So this chapter also brings out the inquisitive nature of the neighbors in such a closely knit social context, because neighbors are interested in knowing what's happening in this family. Right? So here basically again, we get to know a lot of things about Jagan. Again and again, his pitiful condition is actually reassured. So let's go to the last two chapters rather. So in chapter 12, what happens? In chapter 12, everyone, again we see the flashback of Jagan. Jagan remembers how he went to see the bride. The bride is in Kuppam and Jagan goes to see her with the elder brother. The elder brother is vested with the authority to look after Jagan, who is greedy and who might not, behave in a proper way. He would stare at the girl and all. The father also advised Jagan because he did not have a good history. Jagan was excited to see the bride. Bride was shy, but she showed her talents like piano playing and all. The whole episode shows the important role played by the extended family in an important event in one's life, and also customs, arranged traditional marriages. So we can compare and contrast Jagan's marriage with Mali's marriage. Traditional versus very modern marriage, right? Proper marriage versus living together. So that shows their two cultural upbringing and different ideologies and attitudes. Jagan and Ambika got married and they had a big feast for 3,000 relatives. Jagan's father was very specific about inviting all the relatives and proper approval was taken, rituals were done, there were some issues with regard to the dowry. But anyway, Jagan and Ambika started a very good life. Right, there were problems with regard to banana leaf and because of the gold waistband. But always Jagan was there to help Ambika. And after marriage, they lived very happily. They sought the company of each other, right? And Ambika had a lot of duties as a wife, but Jagan forgot that they were part of the extended family and always want to be near the wife. But Ambika had a lot of issues because she had to do a lot of work at home. She can't always talk and be with the husband. But Jagan could not understand that at the beginning, right? So, and Jagan was uh, persuaded to complete his studies. And then 10 years passed and everyone expected Ambika would have a child, but they didn't. So finally, the extended family interfered and they went to Mempi Hills, as far as I remember, to a temple, and they make a vow, and Mali is born. So when Mali was born, actually, it was a great thing. And then only Mali actually brought status, respect, and recognition for the father and mother. That means for Jagan and the mother Ambika. So such a son whom they got with a lot of difficulties is behaving like now today. So Jagan versus Mali regarding marriage, maintaining relationships and fulfilling customs and traditions can be considered throughout this chapter because there is a clear cut difference, right? And then moving on to the last chapter, let's see what the last chapter tells us about. So in the last chapter, we understand how Jagan changes and searches for his own solace. Jagan is a good follower of Gandhi's Ahimsa. He reads Bhagavad Gita and he did everything in his life in a traditional way. However, people who came after the Gandhian movement or during the post-colonial context depict quite an opposite behavior or have different attitudes, like Mali. Jagan also faces this issue as a result of having a young son with modern views. Thus, by the end of the novel, we find a different Jagan who wishes to have a change and solace in life without only dedicating his own whole life for his only son. So, Jagan is disappointed about Mali's behavior. So finally, he decides to go for a retreat. And when the cousin says that Mali is arrested because of having alcohol and some people, still Jagan, after the first shock, says, okay, take this chair, cousin, help him and look after my shop. One day Mali will look after that. If he can't listen to me and become a good boy, let him have some experience in the prison and let him learn about life. So he also says, I'm ready to get an air ticket for Grace. So tell her if she comes. So basically, throughout the novel, we see that this idea, according to Shastras, everyone has three earthly attachments: wife, son, wealth. Finally, Jagan decides to move away from all this and materialistic accumulation of wealth. And also, he leaves Mali, his business, home, and everything in search of happiness. This is called sannyas. First of all, the life of a small child, then a young man who studies, an established man, middle age, and then finally sannyasi. So Jagan follows this. A traditional Hindu has few stages in life, as I told you. So Jagan follows that. So because of Mali, Jagan actually went through quite a lot of problems, right? And finally, with great difficulty only, they got Mali. But after Mali was born, everything was there in their life. That's how they thought. But this baby boy later on became a man and he did not really behave as the father wanted. Whether Mali was a good son who made his parents happy as an adult is an issue. So in the last part of the novel, we see how Jagan changes. A materialistic man changes to a very spiritual man, right? And he gives everything and goes away. So the family that should have been together happily is separated as a result of communication, lack of mutual understanding, and patience. And we get to know, finally, as I told you, how Mali is in prison and how Jagan expects Mali to learn through that. So by the end of the novel, so many factors connected to the Indian social, economic, cultural, and political context are unraveled. The novel is basically situated in 1960s, post-colonial or independent India. Throughout the novel, generation gap is shown and the concept of West versus East. So I'm sure that you all have got a very good idea about the novel. So use those ideas, remember the story when you're answering the questions.